trying to heal from dissociative identity disorder all by yourself is like, what is that noise? Ow, what just hurt me? Who, who is that? Always snapping out of it, always remembering, always finding evidence, always wondering, searching, functioning. I remember counting 3 times that I got hurt today by having a hard time perceiving my environment, but I'm having a hard time remembering one of the times. I remember either the second and third time or the first and the third time, but I remember hitting my head recently. There's a little egg right here and a little dent right there, thanks to the corner of the cupboard in the kitchen where I couldn't see the thing because it was, well, right there on my height level, and I had forgotten that I had left the cupboard open a split second before when I took the cereal out of the cupboard and then turned around into it. So that kind of makes sense. Normal people kind of do that, but I feel like it's relevant because prior to that I had mild abdominal pain like an hour before, which came as a surprise out of nowhere, and I asked myself, like, why is this happening? Am I having an ectopic pregnancy? Am I about to start my period? Is it because I didn't eat enough protein for at least 2 days in a row? Or how many days has it been? Am I having severe malnutrition? What was that noise again? Thank God for these animals and no one to turn to, thank God, because I had to just stop reaching out to anybody because nobody gets it. I really am healing from this by myself, and reaching out to somebody isn't helping me. It's just hurting them. I don't have like a team member or partner in this healing journey other than the Holy Spirit and a whole host of people that like to demand things from me, like attention and responses and explanations and answers and maturity and memory and identity, personality, integrity, and stability, stoicism, intelligence, and wisdom. We'll get there. I will get there. I was in the shower earlier. Let me finish telling you about the injuries real quick. Okay, so there was that one in my head. Then just now, I was eating a square piece of chocolate, which my husband likes cold, and I probably would prefer to eat it room temperature, but I'm like impatient, so I just eat the cold chocolate. And the corner of the square gets stuck while I'm trying to chew it between the tip of my tongue and the roof of my mouth right here. And it starts bleeding, and I have to like literally finish chewing the chocolate with blood in my mouth, like trying to figure out what's going on. And I can still feel a little gap right there because did this happen out of the blue? No, it happened into the pre-existing gum injury from the little piece of gum that is missing from earlier in this year, several months ago, when I had another incident where I was trying to use my finger to go like that and grab something out of that was stuck in my teeth, which after the traumatizing sequence of my mouth getting ripped out, I forgot in retrospect whether I was digging for a piece of plaque, which is really unwise, or whether it was more forgivable, like a piece of lime fiber stuck there or something. I don't fucking know. I'm always hurting myself. And then or even if I'm not hurting myself, even if I just feel internal pain for some reason, the perception of that, that's two separate things. The perception of internal abdominal pain resulted in a physical disassociation wherein I could no longer feel my extremities. And I began to notice that I was having a little bit of trouble seeing. And I did not write that down when I started taking notes of my symptoms today because I don't know, I recently decided that I wanted to go to an optometrist in the near future, and I was judging myself while I was writing the list of symptoms, and I chose not to include that one because it was, I don't know, handled already or embarrassing. I just for some reason judged it as not going on the paper, and I wrote a bunch of other things down, like, there was the abdominal pain, then I disassociated and couldn't feel. Let me just get the paper. I can't remember what happened next. And so those were the two injuries, my mouth and my head. And what was the other one? Something else happened earlier. Maybe I hit my head on something in the closet while I was trying to put clothes away. I mean, ugh. The paper is all the way in this pile of stuff already because I was clearing the bed in case the dog wanted to sleep on it. Okay, so I wrote mild abdominal pain after biting into some fruit. Oh, yeah. So let's go in chronological order because on the paper it doesn't start at the beginning. Ever. That's how you write, in the order that you remember it, which is pretty much in the middle, towards the end, back to the beginning, and kind of in a loop until you remember all the details, and then analyze it and put it into proper chronological order, which is really time-consuming and difficult and frustrating, especially compared to everyone else that is able to just state something in chronological order or logical order from start to finish to begin with. But not me. So anyway, the first thing that happened at the bottom of the paper is I don't even see it on the paper. Must be on the other side. No, that's later. Oh, yeah. Okay, so they were both related to the hypoglycemia. I just only wrote down hypoglycemia once, the second time on the head injury. Okay, so really this note I took is majorly not helpful. It's not accurate. It's not chronological. So good thing I'm taking this video later to try to make sense of it. Not that anybody cares because I don't have a professional team and I am just doing my own care. So I'm documenting the process tonight, I guess. Not normally, but for tonight I'm documenting it because of these injuries, basically. And because of what I said in the shower earlier, we'll get to that. Okay, so first thing is that I was trying to put away clean laundry and dirty laundry and crap from my purse and papers and shoes and cat stuff and dog stuff and linens and pillowcases and finished changing the bed and all of these tumultuous things that are happening in the bedroom because of the laundry project and what should have taken 3 hours turning into like nearly 24 hours. Anyway, that's a whole other story, whatever, bless God. But so then, like, before I can go to bed, or at least before lunchtime tomorrow, I have like to finish organizing the clothes. And I was working on that and having fun, making great progress when I realized I'm starting to get hypoglycemic because I forgot to eat. Like, I literally feel weird, like I have low blood sugar, like I need to stop organizing the clothes right now and go find some food. So I try to do that, and because of the hypoglycemia and my distraction of being home and having messes and chaos around me, you know, things in the wrong place and just something on the floor or whatever. I don't know what little stupid thing distracted me, but, you know, I'm putting something out there and then I'm like, oh, why is my laundry basket still on the couch? I gotta move that real quick before I eat or whatever. And then the next thing you know, you're still on the bed sorting the clothes again. And then you're like, no, 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 remember you're supposed to stop and eat. So by the time I get to the kitchen, after perceiving that I had gone too many hours without eating, and then recalling that breakfast today didn't have enough protein in it, and then recalling that yesterday when I made breakfast, I got the call to be ready to leave in 10 minutes and actually put the breakfast in the fridge, and then only had dinner last night, which was the same food I ate this morning, which didn't have enough protein in it overall, which is part of the problem. And I was like, shit, this needs to be corrected. So instinctively, the first thing I reached for was a handful of sugar. A little piece this big of like the fruit roll-ups that I made from scratch with jelly, and I, as it was ripping off that small piece, was like, not a wise decision. How about get the cranberries instead? So I ate a handful of dried cranberries. Immediately upon swallowing them, practically while still chewing them, I started getting pain in my abdomen. This happened concurrently while I was looking in the fridge, which I consider like the guy's fridge, the guy's food. Like, it has all of their, everything that they eat in there. And was used to be confused by sharing that space together because I was having a hard time finding, like, what am I supposed to be eating? So I literally had put my food in the mini fridge. So I thought to myself, I wonder if this abdominal pain is a psychological issue related to some kind of neural pathway where something in my brain decided that this food isn't mine, even though intellectually I know it's fine, eat it. At the same time, there's things in there that I would never purchase that I don't consider food, because it's a war zone when you go to the grocery store. At least for somebody like me, the mental health issues I battle, my super high metabolism, and my small frame, it is highly important that I am feeding my body with things like almonds rather than high fructose corn syrup, etc. I'm very sensitive to like actually feeling the results of different nutrients. And yes, I know I'm speaking quickly. That's because I have a lot to say, not because I'm hyper. There is too much to say, and it's hard to squeeze it all into the video, especially when I talk in circles. But anyway, so there was hypoglycemia. I finally made it to the kitchen, purposely chose to eat cranberries, felt the abdominal pain, started microanalyzing, why do I feel this pain? Should I classify it as psychological and ignore it? Or is it a true hunger pain? Is it a sense of revulsion from seeing this crystal milk and this nasty ham, which I ended up eating? Or who cares what the pain is? But that's what happened. In my mind, I was asking, where's this pain coming from? And of course, upon acknowledging that the pain existed, it disappeared. Because that's the immediate response I'm seeming to observe, is that when anything does occur, while I'm moving around in home or in work, and I like run into something on accident or whatever, have some type of pain, as soon as I feel the pain and acknowledge the pain, which doesn't always happen immediately, but it will if you actually notice yourself running into something, but sometimes later you're like, oh, does it hurt or not? Whenever that happens, I wish I could hold a train of thought better, especially post head injury. Sucks. Whenever that does happen, it unfortunately seems to be triggering me to have a nervous system level dissociation response, wherein I can no longer feel hot and cold or I don't know what to call it, but the resting existence of my body or extremities. Let me explain. So I feel like I can't feel myself. I feel like I can't feel my head, for example, while I'm in the shower, or I feel like I can't feel my legs in the shower or in the living room or anywhere. But then if I actually touch my leg or like scratch my scalp really hard, I can feel it, and then that reassures me, and I'm like trying to, differentiate between nervous system symptoms, mental health symptoms, and real neurological physical symptoms from a fall that fractured my spine in 2020 and resulted in some occasional pinched nerve, sciatica, numbness, tingling effect, which in the past, when it was a little more severe, I think I had higher swelling back then, it would sometimes cause numbness at the base of the skull or up here on this part of my head. And so I'm like super not aware or panicky, but I'm like, paying attention and monitoring. When I feel like I might be experiencing numbness, I investigate it. So that has been a trend that I have noticed over time as a consequence of needing to pay attention to numbness in my body, to monitor my status and make sure that I'm not getting worse amounts of swelling in the S1 region of the spine, which is where my nerve is protruded according to the MRI. The act of starting to pay attention to numbness caused me to notice that sometimes I don't feel anything, or I don't feel any pain, or I don't feel heat, or I don't feel cold. This has been happening since the first Grass Valley house. Which makes sense, because that's like the only place I lived after my whole crazy spinal injury happened. Not including being in the shelter for a month and a half, being in my car for like a day or two, and a hotel room for a couple days in between, trying to live in my car and getting into the shelter, and then prior to that being in Newcastle with the man that I'm married to now. Who could potentially be able to offer a partner in healing if he would ever acknowledge that I am very much dealing with nervous system things and physical things that affect the brain, that affect the nerves' ability to perceive touch, sensation, heat, cold, sight, sound, smell, and somehow, sometimes that type of difficulty in perceiving your physical environment through your senses can be terrifying and disorienting, and also cause other things like tension and hyperarousal and fear, heightened cortisol levels in the bloodstream, which can cause further medical issues. It's like, whoa, calm down. So just having that general feeling of I can't see, I can't feel, I can't hear, especially when somebody's talking to me and I'm like, I couldn't hear you, I didn't know you were talking to me, and then I try to start listening. I'm trying to, be polite. Can't always say I missed that. I wish that I could. It would be kind of me to my audience to slow down, because that's what I wish for when I would have someone speak to me, is that they would slow down. That is why I recommend the channel that I need to get back on. This could provide some good support. She's got a daisy for her logo, and her website is out of the UK. forget the woman's name at the moment. Carol, maybe. Anyway, a really cool psychologist who has some good content about dissociative identity disorder. She was the first thing I saw when I first received my diagnosis in, I think it was the second week of August in 2020. So anyway, let's try to recap. Hypoglycemia, cranberries, abdominal pain, self-analysis, I guess, disassociation from the physical sensation, trouble seeing, ringing in my ears started right after that, as soon as I walked away from the fridge. And earlier, like maybe 2 or 3 hours ago now, I had some mild groin pain. And I just decided that's okay, that's normal, that just means I need to take better care of myself. It's been too long since I had massage, orgasm, sex, shower, or peed. Like, none of that was any time recently. So I just figured, alright, at least take a shower and pee. And that did help. And I still have abdominal pain in the same area now. It's kind of on the left-hand side. That's why ectopic pregnancy was one of my concerns, because it is really hard for me to know when my cycle is supposed to be after being exposed to other women who got the vaccine. And I worked in close quarters with them in my housekeeping job, and they were in the room cleaning with me, and I'm saying they because it happened to me twice with 2 different women at work when the vaccine hit the market. Should have just ducked out of society back then instead of keep working at the hotel. But anyway, I exposed myself to secondhand vaccine pheromones or whatever. I don't know, something scientifically over my head, but what happened is that I felt comfortable working in the room with them, and I shouldn't have, because later, since then, I have had, I'd have to go over my notes and see if I did a good job documenting exactly which months it happened, but I believe that it was 4 different months throughout the year of 2022 since working with them. Let's see, it was Sharon and Nora, not to throw them under the bus, but if they knew when they got vaccinated and I ever referred back to them, then that could help me figure out which year this happened in, because I honestly don't know whether it was the beginning of 2021 or the beginning of 2022, because it's possible that I was housekeeping on a volunteer basis from the kitchen department in 2022, but I otherwise think that this probably happened in 2021, but I think it was 2022, like that day where we just had to scramble to finish, like one of those Sundays or something. Probably. I don't know. I forget exactly when, but anyway, I worked around 2 different women who had just been vaccinated the prior day in close quarters, and then afterwards, about 4 different months of the year since then, I had double menstrual cycles. I mean, like, the cycle starts, it ends 5 to 6 days later, 5.5 days later, whatever. And then, about 10 days later, it starts again. Yeah, that happened to me 4 times from being around women that were vaccinated. So, there's all kinds of shit going on. It's not just trauma history and trying to heal from mental illness, but the fire's on my ass right now to hurry up and finish healing so I can turn around and hold my hand out and reach somebody else and give them a light in the darkness and a thread of hope to hold on to. And if somebody like that might be watching this right now somehow, then the first place I would recommend that you start is by looking at the work of Dr. Caroline Leaf. look up the concept of neuroplasticity, or just learn about it from Dr. Leaf. Flip over a new leaf. Find hope. It's out there. And if you want to get a little more scientific or entertained, then also check out Dr. John Bergman, however you want to say it, Bergman, doctor of chiropractic, based out of San Diego, and what's the name of the Mexican city right across the border? Anyway, his other second office is in Mexico. Okay, so I wrote down all of those symptoms. Hypoglycemia, stomach pain, trouble seeing. I did not write down at first, not until after I hit my head and realized, oh yeah, that had been relevant, but I didn't want to write it down before. The sciatica and the growing pain. And then I also wrote in the margin, lower back pain, shoulder, neck tightness, and neck weakness. So if you add all of that to the additional injury into the inside gum, then that is just only 2 injuries still that I can count from today, because abdominal pain doesn't count. So obviously something else happened. I can't remember.